It seems like many school systems have left out a few important lessons from the past. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things you didn't learn in history class.
That's astonishing.
What do you call that little thing?
Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we're looking at remarkable moments and facts from the past that are seriously underrepresented in the history books. Though you may be familiar with some of these lessons, if they made the list, they are far from common knowledge, and you likely didn't learn them in school.
Take with you the best sword you can find.
I don't do this for gold, and I'm too old to use a sword.
Number 10. A treatment for female hysteria. In the 16th century, doctors found that orgasms were a great way to treat hysteria in women. Of course, they didn't call them orgasms. They were dubbed paroxysms because it was believed women couldn't experience sexual feelings. Horseback riding or intimate massage sessions administered by doctors were recommended. The 19th century saw the invention of the first vibrator, which was a huge relief to doctors who had started developing chronic tendinitis from the repeated wrist movements. You see, women weren't allowed to relieve themselves, since hysteria was perceived as an illness that could only be treated by science. While this is certainly a stimulating fact, we understand why it wasn't addressed in history class.
Oh, right there. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
Number 9. Dividing your sleep in two. According to several historians, our ancestors had very different sleeping patterns than us. In the Middle Ages, people used to divide their sleep into two phases. They would sleep for roughly 4 hours, then would wake up to do different activities, go see neighbors, pray, read, make love, etc. Then they would go back to bed for another 4 hours or so of rest. However, we should specify that they used to go to bed rather early by our standards. Without any electricity, the potential activities were pretty limited after dusk.
Look at Edison over there with his damn electricity. Hey, Edison! How about sharing some of those light bulbs, huh?
Hey, figure it out for yourself, man!
Number 8. Mad Hatters. Did you know that hat makers back in the day used to make their felt hats using mercury? And unfortunately, in the 19th century, the significant health hazards associated with being exposed to this substance were unknown. Breathing in the mercury vapors regularly, hat makers suffered from hallucinations and excessive anxiety, and often exhibited unpredictable behavior. In some cases, they even experienced slurred speech. These poor artisans were then classified as lunatics. Now we understand the behavior of the Mad Hatter in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Lewis Carroll's wonderfully weird story might have been strange, but the Hatter wasn't actually that far from reality.
What a small world this is!
Number 7. Art competitions in the Olympics. Between 1912 and 1948, the Olympics were not an exclusively sports-based competition. They also recognized the highest levels of skill in the following categories: painting, sculpting, architecture, literature, and music. The only condition was that these pieces of art be somehow associated with sports. Just like athletes, medals were awarded to the winning artists. The founder of the project, Pierre de Coubertin, thought the mind and body should go hand in hand. While he's not necessarily wrong, nowadays, it's hard to imagine a painter showing off his gold medal alongside Usain Bolt.
World champion, 4 times in the 200 meters. That's what I do.
Number 6. Sparta's money.
This is Sparta!
The ancient Greek city-state of Sparta was well known for its strong emphasis on physical strength and warrior culture. What few are aware of, however, is the relationship this society had with money. They strongly discouraged the cultivation of wealth, to the point where silver, gold, and other such precious metals were actually banned.
If I had gold, I would give it to you. But all we have is our armor.
The official currency was iron, and these bars were so heavy that it was a real burden to move even small amounts. For any would-be time-traveling tourists out there who love shopping, the city of Sparta might not be the destination for you. Number 5. The Great Fire of London. In 1666, a devastating fire effectively burned London to the ground. An estimated 13,200 houses, 87 churches, as well as the iconic St. Paul's Cathedral were wiped off the map. What we don't hear about, however, is the very low death toll. Though an exact figure is hard to pin down, it's been estimated that fewer than 10 people died during the fires, which is a good thing. But it's still pretty astonishing that a fire of that magnitude lasting more than 3 days only killed a small number of people. For further perspective, consider the fact that it left 7 out of 8 Londoners homeless.
Destroy the houses. Have the troops keep public order by whatever means necessary.
Number 4. Heroin was used to treat coughs. In the 19th century, chemist Heinrich Draeser was looking for a substitute for codeine, which is pharmacologically similar to morphine. His experiments led him to create heroin, which ended up being stronger than morphine and was ultimately used as a morphine substitute and as a cough suppressant. Draeser tested his miracle drug on animals, his colleagues, and himself. Produced and distributed by Bayer, it became a massive success. At the turn of the century, however, the addictive qualities of heroin revealed themselves to such a degree that it could only be sold for medical purposes. By 1924, it was banned completely. Can you imagine taking heroin for a cough? The field of medicine has come a long way. Number 3. Spy kittens. The adorably named acoustic kitty was a project created by the CIA to spy on Russians in the 1960s. During the Cold War, Americans had the brilliant idea to use house cats to collect information on the Kremlin. These professional spies implanted a microphone in the cat's ear and a small radio transmitter in the skull in order to record conversations without raising suspicion.
Hi, doctor, the cure for dog allergies? Success, done.
More than $20 million went into this eccentric experiment. After several attempts, the CIA ultimately deemed the project a bust and redirected their efforts. Poor kitties, all that for nothing. Number 2. The Dancing Plague of 1518. In 1518, hundreds of residents of Strasbourg were affected by a strange illness. For about a month, these people were taken over by a sudden urge to dance. Many of them died from heart attacks or exhaustion as a result of this uncontrollable compulsion. Though this epidemic eventually subsided, a cause or explanation was never uncovered. Some doctors at the time believed those people were afflicted by hot blood. Modern-day historians, on the other hand, believe the behavior to be caused by ergot, a hallucinogenic fungus found in wheat grains like rye, which resembles LSD. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Number 1. Post-Mortem Photography. Be warned, our top pick is quite morbid. In the 19th century, it was relatively common practice to hire a photographer to shoot photos of the dead. This helped families mourn and gave them a souvenir with which to remember their loved ones. The photographers placed the deceased in a way that gave the impression they were still alive and perhaps sleeping. Children were often shot with a toy, others were sitting and surrounded by their family members. Though it's undeniably hard to say goodbye, this process sounds a lot more painful and unnerving than anything else these days.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.